הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. Good Shabbos, everybody. Good Shabbos, everybody online. For those of you who are online, apologize for starting a little bit late. I'm sure you heard this crazy storm that was going on, and so I think everybody wisely chose to wait a few minutes before they headed out to services. So it's nice to see you all. Rabbi Jordan is on vacation, and I know that he sends his Shabbat wishes to everybody. When Rabbi Jordan is here, he has a very eloquent way of opening up the service, and he says all these wonderful things, and I don't have his gift in that regard, but fortunately there's a very beautiful reading in our prayer book at the bottom of page 124, which I would like to read to start our services. So if you want to follow along with me, actually, why don't we all read it together? It's at the bottom of page 124. It begins with the words, "May the door. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block, too young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life." And together we say, Amen. We begin by bringing light into our lives with the lighting of the candles, the blessings over which can be found on page 120. And so I would like to invite up Leslie Fox and her sister Shawnee, sister-in-law, I've only been corrected on that 3 times so far, to light the Shabbos candles, which again can be found on page 120. I'm sorry, Shawnee. And we sing together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. We continue on page 130. Lechu nirvana l'Adonai narialo yitzur yishenu nekat mafana betoda bizmirot narialo. Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai. Raise a shout for our rock and deliverer. Let us come into God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song. For Adonai is a great God, the great ruler of all divine beings. In God's hands are the depths of the earth, the peaks of the mountains are God's. God's is the sea, God made it, and the land which God's hands fashioned. Come, let us bow down and kneel, bend the knee before Adonai our Maker. So, for Adonai is our God, and we are the people God tends, the flock in God's care. Oh, if you would but heed God's charge this day as we sing these words. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Sing unto God all the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. We continue on page 134. Sing praise to Adonai with the lyre and the melodious song, with trumpets and the blast of the horn. Raise a shout before Adonai the ruler. Let the sea and all within it thunder, the world and its inhabitants. Let the rivers clap their hands, the mountains sing joyously together at the presence of Adonai. For God is coming to rule the earth. God will rule the world justly and its people with equity. We continue with the beautiful words of Shalom Aleichem, 17th century Shabbat table song, welcoming the angels of Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitchem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruits so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days, lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways. We continue on page 144 with Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon, u'b'chayei techol beit Yisrael, bagala u'vizman kariv, v'yimeru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach, Le'alam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei dekudesha berichu, le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, Na'amiran be'alma, v'yimeru amen. Yalla lai lai lai, 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 Yalla lai lai lai. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Baruchu et Adonai Hamorach. Baruch Adonai Hamorach Le'olam va'ed Le'olam va'ed. Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Page 148. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim v'chochma poteach she'arim uvitvuna meshana itim umachalif et hazmanim umesader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtsono. Together in the middle of page 149. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravi. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amecha Ata Amcha Ata Torah u'mitzvot Ukim u'mishtatim Otanu lemadeta, Otanu lemadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shofenu, Kumenu na'asiyach lefukecha, Nenismach b'divrei Toratcha, U'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Dihem chayenu ve'orech yameinu uvahem nege yomam v'layla nege yomam v'layla v'ahavat al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael Ohev Amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibartam B'shivtecha, b'veitecha, u'v'lechtecha, v'aderech, u'v'shochbecha, u'v'kumecha, u'kshartam leot al yadecha, ve'ayu letotafot b'neinecha, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם emet. We continue on page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe that we were taught, before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. There is no way to get from here to there, except by joining hands, marching together. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Norah tehilot oseh feleh, Norah tehilot oseh feleh, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael, Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom, lehamidenu shomreinu l'chayim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם לרית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם לרית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם לרית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. I couldn't help but look at the bottom of the page 162 where it says for the Yismachu, those who keep Shabbat by calling it a delight will rejoice in your whelm. The people that hallow Shabbat will delight in your goodness. For being pleased with the seventh day, you hallowed it at the most precious of days, drawing our attention to the work of creation. And while we're singing Yismachu, and there's this rain coming down, and there's a lighter than what we've been having, attendance, and it's dark outside, and it's just been a rough week for a lot of people everywhere. My heart was really, really lifted to see that we're still pushing through to give our Shabbat woos. And I always feel like when we get to this song, when we get to V'shamru, all that Shabbat joy comes out. So I just can't help but remember where we were like 2 years ago, and we could never get really a lot of woos. And at this moment, even though we have a small group, I think that the woos were greater than they were before all of the trials in this past year or so ago. So I think we've gotten better at keeping the Sabbath. Amen. We continue on page 164 as we rise for the Amidah. We will say the first 3 blessings and then continue praying silently until we reach page 180. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi teilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevig Gula Livnei v'Nehem, V'man Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Michayei Hakol, Atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Michayei Hakol Berachamim Rabim, Zomech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayim Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Baal Kivurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit, Umekayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'neman Ata Lehachayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol, Ata Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, Ukdoshim B'chol Yom Yehalelucha Selah, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Yehiyu leratzo imrei fi ve'yo nebi lifanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri Vigoali Yehiyu leratzot imrei fi Ve'yo mebi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri Vigoali If you'd like to close your Cedar Reeve for just a moment. And before I begin with my Devar, I want to say that it's so gratifying to know that over the years, whenever I have been left all alone on the Bema, this congregation has shown me such faith to be able to offer some words. And I know that I don't deliver them in a rabbinical way, but I've been very gratified to be able to do this. So I spent this morning trying to figure out what it was that I wanted to talk about. And I know that typically during this time, we have been taking out the Torah since it's somewhat of a struggle to get a minyan going for Saturday morning. And that's a whole other thing to talk about. But I did want to talk a little bit of Torah tonight. So this past Wednesday, I had the pleasure of having my first meeting with two B'nai Mitzvah families, both of whom are going to be celebrating the simcha of their first children, or first child, if you will. One of them were twins, to become a bar or bat mitzvah within the next year. And so the spiel that I give for the first family is very different than the spiel that I give for the second family. The second family, they look at me and they're like, okay, we've done it. We're a lot less concerned about it. Let's just get moving. And the first family really wants to delve into it. But the part that I never change is where I talk a little bit about the Torah, and in particular I talk about what the word mitzvah means as it relates to bar bat mitzvah. And I ask the question, what's a mitzvah mean? And of course the answer is always the colloquialism, it's a good deed, which is completely right, but the direct translation is commandment. I ask the children, what is another word for commandment? And without a doubt, the answer is always, it's a rule. I say, great. And then we go and we spend some time trying to figure out what the goal of rules are. I ask them who else gives them rules, and inevitably they look around and then they, oh yeah, mom and dad give me rules. And some kids say very quickly, mom and dad give me rules, and they're able to just name off a whole bunch of them. And some kids really struggle with the idea that mom and dad are giving them rules, and they can't really name some. And so I go back and I start naming off a bunch of the normal rules. You know, brush your teeth, make your bed, do your homework, be polite. You know, don't stick things into electrical outlets, stay away from fire, look both ways before you cross. And we get to the point and I ask them, why are they getting all these rules? And then I really don't know what the point of the rules are, you know? Some of the kids are very close to teenagerhood, even though they're 12, and like, you can tell they're thinking, mom and dad just want to ruin my life. And some of the kids are much more innocent and say, well, I guess mom and dad are trying to protect me. And so I say to them, you know, a paraphrase of what my mother used to say, which was, you don't have speed limits unless people are already speeding, right? Which was, you don't get rules unless you need them. Which brings me to a more deeper discussion of the mitzvot, of the rules. Now in the Torah, 300 of them are somewhere around 300 of them, of the 600 are about sacrifice. And while they're fascinating to learn about, practically speaking, they're very difficult to figure out the laws, specifically how they relate to modern day. So I generally don't focus so much on those in my life. Not to say that they're not extraordinarily valuable to learn, and that the study of those books, which concern themselves mostly with those laws, aren't in and of themselves fascinating and can be meaningful. But when I study the laws, I'm always interested to see which ones are do and which ones are don't, because I really think it frames a lot of the way that we can look about living. For example, when it says don't murder, I think that's a pretty obvious one, although there seems to be some argument about what that word specifically translates to. Is it don't kill or don't murder? It's don't murder. And then it says don't be jealous. That I can get that one. Don't lie. That's a good one. But one of the ones I think is very interesting is honor your father and mother. Kabed et avicha ve'et imecha lema'an yarichun yamecha ala aretz asher Adonai arecha, which is honor your father and your mother. Okay, I get that part. But the part that goes along with it is so that your days on this earth should be lengthened. And I've thought about that for a while, and it's a very specific qualification, right? A lot of the other laws say, do this, and if you don't, here's your punishment, right? But this one doesn't really outline a punishment, does it? It just says, so that your days on this earth should be lengthened. Now, the 10 Commandments happen to be my Torah portion for the holiday of Shavuot. Coincidentally, it happens to be Rabbi Jordan's Torah portion. We are separated by 10 years and a few days. He's also a May birthday, and we both celebrated 10 years apart our bar mitzvah on Shavuot, which is lots of fun and makes both he and I nervous to chant the Torah portion in front of each other because we're pretty sure we both know that one, and yet we'd be surprised how often we forget the trope. But that's also another story. We're also very forgiving of each other when we do. But another teacher of mine, besides the Torah, my college, one of my college pianists, composers actually, used to tell me that his composition teacher told him that when he got lost, when he was trying to compose something and he just didn't get past it, to take the music and turn it upside down and see what it looked like, and that might reveal the answer to the next step where he was going next. And then I took that, and I also used to do that with Bach, whose music, though I love listening to, was never accessible to me on the piano. I just did not like playing it. And so sometimes I would just turn it upside down and go, oh, well, now I kind of understand it. And so I have become very fond of doing that with the commandments, the commandments that say do this and don't do this. I would like to turn them upside down. And in this particular commandment, honor your father and your mother so that your days on this earth will be lengthened. If you turn it upside down, it's if you don't honor your father and your mother, then your days on this earth will not be lengthened, or that they may even be shortened. And for me, this is a relatively practical thing. Your parents are sources of strength. They're sources of knowledge. In fact, they protect you. They provide for you. They give you food. They give you shelter. You should honor them. You should honor them by learning what they have to say and paying attention to them and listening and caring and all of those things. Because if you don't, practically speaking, you may not get all that wealth of information. They might kick you out of the house a little sooner. Who knows? But that one I sort of started to understand, okay, maybe that's the way that God is asking us to honor our father and mother, that our days are lengthened because of all of the wisdom and the tradition and the knowledge and the care and the support and the physical things that they give us. So that has brought me then to a series of commandments which end up in a charge from the Talmud that I still struggle with this day, every day, and I think plays a huge role in our world, and that is what culminates to be Lashon Hara, or translating literally as the evil tongue. Now, the things that lead up to this idea from the Talmud comes from a couple of different places. One of which is in the book of Numbers, where it says that you should not be a bearer of tales, a tale bearer. And there was another place where Miriam spoke badly about Moses, her brother, and she got tzara'at, she got leprosy, which was one of those diseases that supposedly you got from doing things like Lashon Hara. And Lashon Hara in particular has been defined. It's very difficult, by the way, if you hear some of this strict definition. It's saying anything about a person that can cause harm, right? Even if they're not there, even if you were part of it and you own up to your thing, that's very difficult to do. Even if it's true. Even if it's true and you say it and it can cause harm, that's Lashon Hara. You can imagine then, like it's really difficult to figure this one out. So I have two problems with it. Number one is, how exactly can I possibly do that? And number two, well, actually, I put the cart before the horse. What exactly does that mean in this modern world, considering the rapid communication that was available to us? I mean, if you turn on the television or open up your email or see some texts or go on Facebook, it's all Lashon Hara. I mean, almost everything is Lashon Hara. It's almost as if nowadays, in order to avoid Lashon Hara, you couldn't speak. So I have some questions about that strict definition, and I've had arguments with the rabbis over the years because it's not 100% clear. And then the second thing is, okay, if when I have finally come to a definition of Lashon Hara, how in the world am I going to be able to do that? One of the things that I learned as a pianist is that when I get up and might perform, if I focus on the things that I'm not supposed to do, inevitably I do them. This is another word if you're into sports, this is called choking. You know, if you get up there and, oh God, this counts, I better not miss this shot. Whatever I do, don't miss the shot. I can't miss the shot. Everybody's counting on me. I better not miss this shot. And sure enough, you strike out, you shoot the basketball far and away, you drop the football, you shank the shot, whatever it is. And it's because human beings really struggle with negative thoughts. Not bad thoughts, but the don't do thoughts, right? We've all experienced this. Like if we're going downstairs, we say, whatever we do, don't trip. And then suddenly our footing gets a little wobbly, right? And this happens, beginning to happen to me with much greater frequency when I go into a crowd. I go, okay, don't forget that person's name. That's important. You need to be able to, and I go up to them and what was the name I was not supposed to forget, right? It's horrible, but it's true. Or don't forget to set your alarm. Or when you go to the grocery store, like, you know, my wife will say, pick this, don't forget to pick this up. And I get to the grocery store and I'm like, what in the world was it that I was not supposed to forget? Or the best one is, my father used to joke with me all the time. I'm sure, I mean, he was a bad dad joker. I'm a bad dad joker. My poor son is going to be a bad dad joker. He loves it, actually. He's only 9, so he still loves it. He used to say to me, whatever you do, don't think of a pink elephant. And of course, I'd think of a pink elephant. And then, oh no, I wasn't supposed to think of a pink elephant. Truth is that when it comes to hitting the mark, for whatever reason, we do very, very poorly when we focus on the thing that we're not supposed to do, right? It's almost as if we have to spend time figuring out what it is that we're not supposed to do, which we do, and then figure out how to not do that. So as a pianist, and I don't think I've ever played any piece with all the right notes, but I had to retrain my mind to not worry about missing the notes and rather to think about what I was supposed to do. Now, I found out that I was not capable of telling myself, play all the right notes, because that didn't work. And it turns out that for me, playing the right notes was not my innermost goal of being a performer. It was to make music. And so what I ended up by telling myself to do was make music. Enjoy what you're doing. Make music. And when my poor ADHD brain would decide to leave and, you know, wonder whether or not I turned off the iron before I left and was inevitably starting to forget a note here or there, the thought that I came back to was, well, it may not be the right note, but let's make it beautiful. And that's the same thing that happens to me when I'm up here this day. So the whole negative, positive commandments, and how do we not do Lashon Hara, maybe for us, rather than focusing on what is a very difficult definition, don't ever say anything that could come back and hurt that person, maybe an easier way is to focus more on Lashon HaTov. Or, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And when we're talking about other people, even if our intentions are best, maybe there's a point at which we don't say anything further because it may, even if it's true, just not be nice. I think we've all run into people like that in our lives. You know, I have done many memorial services where people come up to me and say, you know, this person, I never heard them say a negative thing about anybody, right? Those names still come to my mind, and I think of them when I hear of them as maybe they were a tzaddik. Maybe that's what it was to be a righteous person. And I know that it's almost impossible now because everywhere we look, if you open the newspaper, if you look on Facebook or Twitter, or if you turn on the television and look at any of the big or small networks, it seems like there's nothing you can watch or read or hear these days that isn't harmful. And I know we can't control that. And the Torah actually doesn't tell us to do that. But I think we can control what we put out there. And I think in our community, at the very least, we can create a place, which I think we do a very nice job of, by the way, of creating a place where we try to focus on Lashon HaTov. So I struggle with it daily. I really do. My son just got back from camp, and he told me a couple of things that didn't go on very nicely there, and and some things that did go very nicely, and I've sort of struggled. What do I do about this? Do I go tell someone? Will it make the situation better? How it will reflect on the congregation, given the position that I'm in? What do I do about what I just heard? And in the end, the suggestions I've heard was, well, you probably need to say something, but how do you say it in the most Lashon HaTov possible? Now, I'm not suggesting that Lashon HaTov, good words, is a Pollyanna type of thing, right? I'm not saying that we should bury our heads in the sand and only talk about good things. But I think there's always a way, even if we have to discuss things that are difficult, to put it in a good light or to put it in the least bad light. So those are my thoughts. This is my word of Torah for the evening. Sort of the end of my week, which has been, like I'm sure it has been for everybody, another difficult week to figure out how to feel about what I'm hearing and how to figure out what I'm going to say. And I hope that there comes a time where Lashon HaTov becomes much more, let's just say, popular, and that we learn to love both hearing and speaking it, because I think the world would be a much more peaceful place. And with that hope for peace, for the peace of the good word, not the good word, but good words, I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom. We take a moment to pray for people in our congregation who are battling illnesses, who are unwell and in need of healing. We take a moment in our congregation this evening to pray for those who take care of our loved ones, of our friends who are battling illnesses, who are in need of refuah shlema. We keep them deep in our hearts, and we add these names for refuah shlema: Richard Zuspin, Lee Silverstein, Jill Van Teem, Eleanor Goodman, Charles Goodman, Yuli Makavos, Libby Routman, Laurel Phoenix, Marjorie Whitmore, Jerry Phillips, Claire Levin, Paul Kershon, Eleanor Dodds, Riva Fisher, Chandler Jacobs, Cyril Ann Rosenberg, Aaron Withers, Brianna Jacobs, Leslie Knight, Dan Rubenstein, Cindy Andrews, Bert Singerman, Stephen Schiff, Mateo Velasquez, Dr. David Mazel, Sam Cohn, Ron Kurtz, Lily Withers, Mark Withers, Janelle Siegel, Juliette Siegel, Rachel Davis, Max Jacobs, Charlie Kaplan, Kathy Waldner, Ellen Green, Janice Rappaport, and Abby Dewey. If there are any others that you wish to pray for, please say their names as my eyes pass over yours, or type them into the chat. We turn to the middle of page 371 as we pray for Refuah Shlema. Mi sheberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We turn to page 586 as we rise for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, atet gerula liotzer bereshit, shehu notesh shamayim v'yosed haaretz, umoshav yikaro b'shamayim ima'al, ushchinatu zo begove meromim, u'eloheinu einon, v'anachnu kor'im, u'mishtachavim u'modim, Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'nemar v'ayadonai, l'melech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo, U'shemo echad. Please be seated. It is hard to sing of oneness when the world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone, and naught but memory can fill the emptiness their passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what we were in companies with those who we lived and loved. It cannot help us find what each of us alone must now become. Yet, no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and words, and what they did is part of what we have become. We do best homage to our dead when we live our lives more fully, even in the shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world, and each one is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming the one, we affirm the worth of each one whose life now ended brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone, and every life finds purpose. This evening our thoughts turn to those who we have lost recently in the period of Shiva, Scott Lucians, and those who are in the period of Shloshim, the 30 days since their passing, Jill Romaine, and those whose yahrzeits fall this week, Ellie Hammerling, Ben Grazis, Ruth Grossman, Joel Greenberg, Alvin Elster, Rosalind Dashoff Lipson, Edith Bernstein, Gladys Anderson, Mildred Ressler Mittler, and Bertha Gordon Berman. If there are any others that you wish to remember this evening, please say their names aloud. We turn to page 598 as we rise for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrach hirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevorach le'elam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudisha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all the world, to which we together say, Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'yimeru. Amen. Our closing song for the evening is page 625, Adon Olam. I thought we'd do the old traditional melody because I don't think we've sung it in a while. So, Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa B'chefzo Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'yacharei Hiklot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora Vehu Haya Vehu Hove Vehu Yiyeh B'tifara Vehu Echad V'yein Sheni Lehamshilo Leachbira B'li Reshit B'li Tachlit V'lo Ha'os V'hamisra Vehu Eli V'chai Goali V'tzor Chavli B'et Tzara Vehu Nisi Umanos Li Menat Kosi B'yom Mekra B'yado Afkid Ruchi Mi'et Ishan V'ya'ira V'imruchi Geviati Adonai Li V'lo Ira. Please be seated for just a couple of moments. Upcoming programs at Dor Tamid. It's very light these last week or so, last few days of July, and I cannot really believe that August is upon us so rapidly. I don't know. Last year's summer seemed like it lasted an eternity, and this year's summer has not gone that slowly. Tomorrow at 9:15, I'll do a little Shabbat story, and then Havdalah at 7:30. Rabbi Jordan will be back on Monday, and so Torah study will continue at 11 o'clock this Wednesday, July 28th at CDT. Thursday, July 29th at 10 o'clock, there's the Primetimers Coffee with Rabbi Jordan. And then at 1 o'clock, there's the Knit and Crochet group on Zoom. Friday, July 30th, Kabbalat Shabbat services in the sanctuary. And then Saturday, July 31st at 9:15, there's story time with Rabbi Ron. And at 7:30, there's Havdalah. Of course, I know. Did I say Rabbi Ron? My apologies. Rabbi Jordan. I did say earlier about the names thing, didn't I mention it? Yes, so my apologies. The high holiday information has gone out, so take a look at those forms, and I know sometimes they can be a lot. Just know that Stacy and Ruth Ann were working very hard this week to make sure that all the forms are going well. So if you have a problem with them, please give them a call. Don't give up on the website. I know that they'll straighten it out. So Shabbat Shalom to everybody. We're going to conclude with Kiddush and Motzi and then a closing benediction. Before we do Kiddush and Motzi, though, I want to point out, and you'll see it when I take off the cover, this beautiful cover that we have for the challah, which is now going out. Well, I'll just show you, even though we haven't. It's now going out to prospective members, new members. The membership committee put this together. It's really pretty. It says Congregation Dor Tamid, and then it says Shabbat Shalom on it. And it's got the blue and white kind of a talit. It's really beautiful. So I want to give a shout out to the membership committee for taking the initiative to do something so nice like this and to help keep our name in our community in people's homes. So we turn to page 100, and I think it is 23 as we rise for the Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim Kivanu v'acharta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim b'shabbat kodshecha b'ava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh hashabbat l'chaim. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May you see God's face turn towards you. Yisaronai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May every path you take bring you closer to the face of God. May people see the face of God in your smiling face as you wish them peace. And may you too experience the same look back as those that you greet along your path wish you and give you peace. Shabbat Shalom.